Fall is finally here, which means I get to get away with this. Welcome to Haven's Handiworks. You remember the ferns that hated me a couple episodes back? I thought we could do a little update. That was until my cat ate half of this one last night. So they're actually doing much better. They were doing even way better, but now this side's bald. There was all this growth here. I really should have known better. This is just his kind of plant. But this one is actually doing really good. Nice and full, big new leaves. Sphagnum making me nervous. I do have to water them every 3 or 4 days, but they're definitely holding on to moisture better than they were in the little plastic pot and the medium they were in originally. Which actually brings me to my next thing I want to show you, which is actually why this episode is being done, and that is my staghorn fern and how I mount epiphytes on cedar planks. This, when I got it, was half the size of this one down here, this smaller one. And it was 2 little plants. Couldn't have been maybe, oh, they were like that big each. And that was a year ago when I mounted them on this, and they more than doubled in size. So they seem to be doing pretty good, and I just toss them in the shower for a soak once a week, and they're pretty happy that way. They sit about 4 feet back from an east-facing window that gets early morning light, and that's about it. Hide. Stop loving the tripod. It's not that into you. I always have project scraps laying around, so, which is actually what this is. It's a piece of cedar from strawberry beds in the backyard. So what I'm gonna need is a measuring tape and some of these picture hangers. Little D-ring picture hangers. I need 2 of those. Small screws. Hopefully it's not too long. What I'm going to be mounting today is an ant plant. They normally grow on the side of trees, so they are perfect for this kind of setup. They like that nice barky mix, so I'm probably going to use a lot of the bark that it came with, and a little bit of sphagnum, because this method dries out really quickly. Let's leave that in there. You're going to need a ring. I'm using a clear acrylic ring. Metal ring would be better, but I ran out, so I'm using this. A small piece of cotton clothesline that I have left over. See, this is a running theme with this project. It's a lot of leftover scraps. So some colorful yarn. So I'm going to give you a top-down view of this so you can see what I'm doing better. Definitely a way better top-down view than last time. I actually finally went and looked and I found some of these, more of these little screws. So I do not need the screws that are too long. I also found a little cleat that I'm going to use at the bottom so that when there is moisture on this, it isn't sitting right against the wall. So I'm going to put this down here. This is the top side because it's a nice pretty side, even though it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to flip it over. It's got a little schmutz on it. Okay, so this will just 3/4 inch in. And 3/4 inch in. Up and down doesn't really matter because these will space themselves pretty well. So we're going to go on the inside edge of that. Sorry about the creaky chair. Not a whole lot I can do about that. Alright, so you know what? We'll just square that up right there this way. You're really supposed to hang them the other way, and there's usually a frame behind them. So it sits down below the picture. But this one. So it's still a little wiggly, so you can adjust it. Be careful with raw cedar fence boards. They'll give you splinters if you're not careful. I really should know better than that. Okay. So I'm gonna move. Let's go ahead and add that. Cleat at the bottom. Uh-oh. There it is. One and an 8. 5 3/8. Two and a quarter inches in. One and a quarter up. Put it around. Take it in here. So yeah, I'm gonna put them right there. Alright, and what that does is when it's hanging against the wall, it hangs like that. Because this will hang a little bit away too. And that'll keep the moisture off your wall. Next, just line those up, slip that through, pull them through together, and pull that tight. So now it's all locked together. And then you're gonna just loop that, and you're gonna hold on to that for later. And this one, you start all the way up at the top, and you wrap it around until you've got as much of a drop down as you want. One more. All right, and then you pass that through this right here, through the blue loop. You take this tail that you've been holding on to, and you pull it up into the coils. Then you cut this off right here and here. You need to cut tiny scissors. Cut that away. Then you gotta decide which side you want to be your face. Whether you want that side or that side. My God. I kind of like this side. Alright, so that's the face. Alright, so Alright, so you're going to take your rope and you shove it through there and through there. And then you'll figure out how you want the hang. You can't really see that. Let it hang on itself like this. And that is pretty much where I want it. So I'm going to take and tie a knot. There. Back to where it was. And a make sure the knots are nice and tight and fairly even. And you're going to take your yarn again. And this time you want your loop to extend past that. And you're going to start here close to the ring. And tightly wrap up to the knot. Pinch as you go so you can keep it nice and tight. And make sure you don't have any gaps in your yarn. All the way up till you reach the knot, and I'm going to go one more time so it's nice and snug, and then I'm going to push it through the loop again, pull it tight, and pull the tail, and the tail will secure it. Pull the loop into the coils again. Sometimes it's a little stubborn. There we go. You pull both sides so they're nice and snug. And you cut. And you repeat the same thing, same process on the other side. And I'm gonna just, oh, that is terrible. I am gonna just fast forward through that bit. You can go, sweetheart. Will you bring me a better knife than the one I have here, and these little tiny scissors, which are fine for the yarn.
Yeah, I'll be right back to do that.
And here come husband hands with an accoutrement of pokey things.
Cutlery.
Stabby things. Sweetheart, you seriously need to sharpen your knives. Alright, so you're gonna cut the bits off the end, and there is your board. So for mounting, move this aside for a second and we'll come back to it. You're going to need some moss. It's a very small plant, so I'm going to use some of its own bark. But first, let's go ahead and wet the moss first. So I'm going to take this moss and we're going to wring it out and set it aside on the board. And eventually we're going to need some sheet material, whether it is cocoa coir or coconut husk, or in this case, sheet moss. You're going to need some kind of sheet material to hold everything together. So we're going to set that aside to soak. gonna put this one a little on the low side, about halfway, right about here. Because these can get kind of tall. They're slow growing, but I want it to have plenty of room to grow up the board. So very gently, I'm gonna pull this out. It's got a very nice sized root ball. I'm also going to need in my box of goodies, florist wire and a staple gun and T50 staples, which I have this loaded, and then I have some extra because I might need it. So first thing I'm going to do is a little of this bark and a little bit of sphagnum. And then we're going to take and just lay it down like that. And I'm going to take a little more sphagnum on top to kind of protect it from what I'm about to do, and which is I'm going to loosely wire it in place, and I mean loosely, so just okay, so again, fold that wire over, and again. And then I'm going to just gently do the same thing on this side. You want to go below the caudex. You don't want anything pressing on that. They're hollow. So alright. So that's just to kind of hold it in place for a minute. That's why it's so loose. While I cover the rest. While I cover the rest in the sheet moss. So bring that up here. See, it's soaked up a bunch of water. Wring it out carefully. Do not twist it or you'll tear the sheet. And carefully unfold it. Now I want a split, ow, some sharp sticks in there. Down the center right here, because we want this to kind of go up, behind, and around, up behind, and around. Spots like this, like that. All right. And again, I think this time we'll start here. So we come close. And then you're gonna bring it up to press that in to right there. Careful, sometimes you miss the wire. Or in my case, you miss it entirely twice. There we go. And we're gonna bring it around to here. That one, you're just gonna kind of repeat this over and over again until you got it sufficiently secured. Just wrap and staple, wrap and staple. And I'm gonna fast forward through most of this. Nice and secure. And then you just take, this one came with a little wire thingy, so I'm just going to use that to remove all the excess wire. That thing is terrible. Take it, fold that over. That one over, and then for good measure, staple it down. So that is how I make my cedar plank mounts for my epiphytes. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Come back for more. Like, subscribe. Bye.